let's watch this video. Why do we still need record labels?
Record labels.
Because I got a couple of likes on a video that I post. I got a couple of likes on the tweet that I posted, just talking about record labels. Because somebody had, like, it was a reply to a tweet where somebody was saying record labels, something about their record deals or whatever. And I just tweeted, bro, I don't have any sympathy for artists anymore, because we all know that record labels are fucking shitty, but artists continue to sign to these record labels. Like, what do you mean? How can you come to me and start crying and bitching and complaining about the label did X, Y, and Z? Bro, you knew this and you signed the deal. You knew this before you signed the deal. You can't talk about education. You knew this shit before you fucking signed the deal. You knew that they were gonna fuck you.
Record labels. I don't like them. You don't like them. It's probably fair to say that as far as media companies go, record labels are up there as some of the most hated to ever exist. Yeah. But why don't we like them? Statistically speaking, no one watching this video has ever been signed to a major record label. In reality, the average music consumer knows so very little about what actually goes on at these companies. Disney and Netflix at least produce things that clearly show us how poorly run they are. It's only from hearing stories of the copyright strikes, exploitative contracts, and shady business practices that we've all agreed that record labels suck. But at the end of the day, they're just stories. Because of the mystery of it all, it becomes easy to question how much of it is real. Just how bad are these major labels? Well, as it turns out, like 99% of the things that you've heard about major record labels are true. Those aren't even the questions that need to be answered here. Instead, through the process of compiling all of those stories and analyzing business strategies used throughout the years, these are the questions that I want to answer today. Number one, how are these record labels allowed to do what they do without consequences? And two, which major record label is the worst?
3, why do people keep signing to these record labels? That's the number one question that I have. Why do people keep signing to record labels if the business practices have been shitty, have always been shitty and continue to be shitty, and the artist keeps getting fucked at every single level, but these artists continue to sign to them? I really don't understand.
Money in large amounts, my garage full of cars that bounce, moving my tape to make.
To answer those two questions, we're gonna need some background context. So, okay, why do artists even need a record label in the first place? Most of you probably already know this, but for those of you who don't, there's two main things that a record label does. First of all, a company that's going to have a large excess of cash laying around can worry about manufacturing and distributing your physical releases, your CDs, vinyls, etc. And the second thing is that they allow you to work with people that you would never be able to otherwise. A big example of this is with international distribution. Global distribution companies are hard to access, especially as an independent, but a lot of big record labels do have the right connections. So essentially, a record label's main jobs are distribution and providing connections. But there is a multi-billion-dollar sales chart where the line is escaping the graph-sized hole in that picture. Say hello to the big three: Warner Music Group, Sony Music, and Universal Music Group. They're on a mission to eat the music industry. Barring indie labels or independent artists, these three big fellas own and operate the works of every artist you can name right now in one way or another. I say in one way or another because all of the labels that aren't one of those three have absolutely been bought out by one of those three, which leaves the big three in an oddly powerful position.
Yeah, it's a complete triopoly, I think the word would be. Yeah, I'm doing good, Aria. What's up? We're watching a video about music labels, and I don't know. I'm curious about how they operate, really, because I don't understand why people continue to like sign to them, man.
Especially for how little
these three are a freaking. They hold so much power. Like, they control every artist and every like indie label. They own all of them. So I'm just like, what the fuck? How do they get away with that?
Are involved with the making of any actual music. The issue is when a smaller record label gets gobbled up by one of these big fuckers, they now have to work harder to please the big guy. More pressure to sign more promising artists makes it more challenging for small artists to get signed in the first place. But once you do get signed, you'll have a whole new network of connections, right? Well, kind of, but mostly no. Think about it like this. Streaming platforms like Twitch or Kick love handing out exclusivity deals for stupid amounts of money. But the common issue with those deals for the creators is that
I don't stream daily. I stream like every now and then, honestly. I want to start streaming daily, to be honest. but I don't really have the time or the energy to be doing no shit like that. I'm gonna try to stream like 2 or 3 times a week, honestly, just on a random schedule. But yeah.
Platform is arguably essential nowadays. But at the same time, getting an exclusivity deal basically secures your retirement fund. Obviously, it's not a one-to-one comparison. Platforms aren't offering up-and-coming streamers exclusivity deals, but you get the idea. As a small artist signed to a record label that's been bought out, you are limited to the connections inside of Big Daddy's umbrella. And that doesn't even account for situations where an artist signs a lengthy exclusive contract just to get abandoned on the distribution and promotion side of things by the new management. But you still kind of need Big Daddy and Big Daddy's deals, because how else are people going to hear your music? And without any major competition in the industry, these big record labels can kind of just do whatever they want.
You know what's so fucked? It's the idea that the platforms that that have the music on them are in bed with these labels. So it completely divorces itself from the idea that there's some sort of online ability to just be good and people will flock to you just based on how good you are. It's all bought and paid for, which is anybody who's really big, you look at them yeah, I guess you're really big, but it seems like you're really big because your label thinks that you're marketable, so they put a whole bunch of money behind you and paid Spotify and paid Apple Music to actually get you to be big in the first place. It's not like YouTube where, if I'm popular and I'm making good content, then my content gets to the top and gets more views and gets shared more, so I do better. Or even Twitch, if I'm a good enough Twitch streamer that I can get more people to come watch me, I can put out clips that are entertaining, all that shit. Thanks, Aria. I don't really be fucking streaming too much, man. I just be reacting and yapping and playing games, bro. Talking to me about my fucking channel, bro. Goddamn.
But if you took 7th grade social studies, you may be thinking to yourself, isn't that why we have anti-monopoly measures in
Yeah, but that doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist anymore.
This country?
Big companies, you might be there's no such thing as antitrust with big companies.
Once upon a time, we had the Big Six, basically the ones we have now with...
So there used to be Warner, EMI, Sony Music, BMG. Universal Music Group and Polygram. Whoa. So we don't have EMI, BMG, and Polygram anymore. I guess they got bought up. You can suggest some ideas. To be honest, I'm not really looking for no ideas, really. I'm just trying to stream, you know what I mean?
A few DLCs. To be specific, Warner Music Group, Electric Music Industries, or EMI, Sony Music, Bertelsmann Music Group, or BMI, Polygram, and Universal Music Group. From 1929 to 1998, those were the six that controlled...
Damn, that's 70 years. 70 years of control? That's actually fucking crazy.
Controlled a modest 70% of the world music market. And before them, it was a similar group of 6 labels.
That's actually not bad. Wait, that's not actually bad. For 70 years, 6 groups. Wait, there's one missing, Polygram. I guess Polygram's part of the independents. But essentially, 6 groups controlled 70% of the market. And then, 30% of the market was just straight up... 30% of the market was just independents? That's actually not a bad... system
of the world music market, and before them it was a similar group of 6 labels. So wait, you're telling me that for really no reason at all, the 3 that we don't have anymore just disappeared and the same amount of market share got funneled into just these 3? Yeah, well, what's the deal here, man? Well, we gotta remember something here today. These things are not in the music business. They're in the business. Don't let them fool you otherwise. Money always comes first. So purely because it made sense financially, these labels absorbed each other and did so in record time, just 14 years between 1999 and 2013. And here's how they did it.
This in 14 years, they
so
just
try to follow along. Seagram, British beverage company and one-time media conglomerate, buys Polygram for $10.1 billion US. And then subsequently merges Polygram with Universal Music Group in 1999, leaving us with the big...
Wait, what the fuck? So how does Seagram... Wait, what? Seagram bought Universal and then merged it with... No, bought Polygram and then merged it with Seagram. Is Seagram owned by Universal? Who was Seagram owned by? What? So they bought it for 10 billion and then they just fucking sold it to Universal? What the fuck?
5, and one of them looking like a mancubus from Doom. Sony and BMG merge in a joint venture, and BMG, being the girl boss that she is, demands to keep her last name, so they become Sony BMG. So now we're at the big 4, if you're keeping track. UMG then hits the Slither.io entrap maneuver on EMI, with Warner Brothers swallowing up the leftovers. And Sony filed for divorce. They bought BMG's 50% stake in Sony BMG for $1.2 billion, and immediately took BMG's name off the masthead. So that's how we get to just the big 3. And hey, now that those losers are out of here, you guys want to go public? Yeah, believe it or not, before 2020, none of the major labels were acting to please shareholders. All of this shit was done for fun, I guess. Remember, these excessive merges and shutdowns caused thousands of dollars of damages to some artists and leave others hopeless without a deal of any kind. And they did it all as a passion project. So with where we're at now,
they did it for profitability, but it was like they didn't really think that it could be publicly traded because it's music. Like, how do you publicly trade music? It's just all opinion and stuff like that. Thanks, but I'm not interested, bro. But yeah, it's like they're publicly trading like music and subjectivity and stuff like that. It's like, it's weird.
It's barely a matter of choice from the artist's perspective. The big 3 hold an unthinkable amount of power in the music industry. You want to get distributed in China? You better hope your label has an in at Universal. They spent years convincing Tencent to work exclusively with them. You want to finally release the album that you've been working on tirelessly for the last 3 years, driven by the passion for creating inspiring art that affects people the world around? Oh no, your label's refusing to release it because the parent company doesn't think it's going to sell enough. Time to beg Sony some more. But I know what a lot of you are thinking. Doesn't the internet kind of ruin all of this? Limited connections, mergers and acquisitions, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? And those are all fair questions.
It doesn't.
Even though that last one kind of hurt.
Because, I mean, this is going to be a little bit of pre-watch, but because they're in bed with the music platforms, bro. YouTube might be the only one that's not really in bed with them, but even then, it's still in bed. It's like YouTube videos. Actually, I don't even know when the last time there was a YouTube, like an indie artist that had a YouTube video that went viral. Like, music videos don't even go viral anymore, man.
Bit, the internet kind of did ruin everything for these major labels. In fact, for a little over a decade, they were in a complete panic about people listening to music without their consent. Nakey Jakey has a great video about how Napster, LimeWire, and other peer-to-peer file sharing services got slammed by lawsuits and regulations by almost everyone in the early 2000s. But I have something to tell you. There's a reason I'm using an undoctored Aphex Twin song in the background of this video right now without paying anybody to do so. It's because that panic didn't end in 2001 when Napster shut its ass down. Famously, Nine Inch Nails ended their contract with Interscope, which is owned by UMG, in favor of uploading their songs for free on their MySpace page in the early 2000s. And even more famously, Radiohead, yeah, ever heard of them? They released In Rainbows on the internet independently with their pay what you want model. Not to mention, for not already established artists, the internet, mainly YouTube, which, oh trust me, we'll get to in a second, gives up-and-coming artists the chance to gain notoriety before getting signed. If the internet already made me famous, you're gonna have to fork over some more cash.
Money.
So
you have
what
to give
are
me
these
more money
poor,
now,
small businesses going to do? The internet is ruining everything. Well, in 2004, a group of executives at Atlantic Records, owned by Warner Music Group, had an idea, a new type of record deal. The 360 deal. Instead of only making a profit from album sales, you know, the thing they actually affect, a 360 deal would give them a cut of everything. And in return, the label gives you special treatment. More promotion online, more promotion for your shows. The label helps you with everything, so you pay them for everything. Paramore was the band that Atlantic initially tested this type of deal on. Or I should be more specific, Hayley Williams got the first 360 deal. The Farrer brothers were not included. And I'll be the first to call it, that was an intentional move by Atlantic. They knew this deal was nonsensical, but it was probably pretty easy to sell it to Hayley, the the frontwoman of the band who they knew they could safely invest in. This rather sneaky move by their label is widely considered to be the main reason that the band broke up. Once that deal got signed, the band completely centered around Hayley Williams, because everyone's bottom line became making sure she was famous enough to be profitable. Really, it's the sleazy car mechanic deal of the music world.
Damn, Hayley fucked her entire group up with that shit, bro. Like, what the fuck? She really low-key like fucked that whole group up.
Every part they touch, they charge you for, regardless of if you needed their help in the first place. And rest assured, they'll do their best to convince you that you need premium air. It's the best decision for you, of course. Nowadays, all record labels use this type of deal. It's the easiest way to combat the streaming age, full stop. So by 2010, for all intents and purposes, the big three were back at the top, sitting on their thrones, neatly placed on top of the still
360 deals is so fucking ridiculous. Like, I'm paying you a bit of everything that I do so that you can go ahead and do nothing for me, because everything is built up of my back. What are you talking about? Like, what does a label even do for a nigga nowadays, man? Labels will get you into the zeitgeist, it will get you talked about, but that's not enough to like connect with people anymore, bro. You can just be talked about and be put on these pages. People know the game nowadays. They don't give a fuck about none of that shit.
Burning wreckage of Napster, LimeWire, and mountains of legal paperwork. Even Radiohead and Nine Inch Nails, who so boldly went against the industry standard, crawled their way back to their record labels after their time being independent. So the reason why major labels are allowed to do the things they do without any consequences is because, even after all this time and all of these innovations, artists still need labels. They provide career sustainability that most artists see as unobtainable on their own. And the other, more controversial reason is that these record labels kinda own one massive monopoly in the music industry. It might not perfectly fit into that category legally speaking, but it sure does appear to work the same way. And listen, I could sit here and rattle off controversies that the collective big three have had for the next 30 minutes. I mean, there's a lot of them, but I'm telling you, it's not even necessary. Out of the big three, there's one of them that is so evil, even the artists are starting to walk away. One
UMG?
so evil that consumers, musicians, and other companies have all gone out of their way to take a dump on their reputation. And even if you already think you know everything there is to know about this label, trust me, it's worse than you could imagine.
UMG? Yeah. The big daddy of the big three.
Universal Music Group, not to be confused with Universal Pictures, which are owned by different parent companies, is the biggest of the big three, hoarding an outrageous 34% of the global music market share, and is also such an annoying little shit stain on the music industry that it's honestly appalling. Let's start with their treatment of musicians, because that's kind of important, wouldn't you agree? I'm a level with you. UMG does not want to pay you, even if you make music, apparently. And there's no better way to show this than with the lawsuit filed against UMG last year by none other than Limp Bizkit for $200 million. Fred and the rest of the band claim that UMG has withheld $50 million worth of royalties, which they allegedly still haven't paid them. And the fact that this has become a legal battle means they probably won't get paid for a little bit either. The real issue with this is that the work that UMG
$50 million that they haven't gotten paid? That's fucking ridiculous.
does for Limp Bizkit, that being distribution, isn't a one and done job like hiring a painter for your house. They're still profiting off of Limp Bizkit's work, but they're not giving any of that money to Limp Bizkit. It's as if they keep showing up to their house every week to paint it the same color and charge their card before they can even give them consent. That is also why the lawsuit Limp Bizkit filed is so hefty. UMG has breached many levels of their contract. In legal terms, they're suing for fraudulent concealment, fraudulent business practices, and, most ironically of all for UMG, copyright infringement. Yeah, doesn't feel so good when it happens to you, huh? I just gotta say though, not that I'm defending them, but breach of contract is surprisingly lazy for a company that, when we were talking about business at least, was so meticulous and calculated that they didn't even go public until just a few years ago. In fact, it seems so out of character that when the news first came out, most expected this lawsuit to be dismissed by the court. Obviously an unsubstantiated isolated legal tantrum being thrown by the band. But just a few months ago, this case was accepted by the courts. It's actually happening in a real courtroom sometime soon. Call me crazy, I guess, but this starts to make it seem like UMG truly doesn't give a flying fuck about the art that they work with. I mean, if they did, they would pay their artists, right? But they don't. They could burn all the masters to all of their most famous artists' songs and probably still wouldn't care. The 2008 Universal Studios fire was many people's fault, not just UMG, to be clear. But placing blame isn't even important because at the end of the day...
What? Universal Studios had a fire, and he's like, they probably just burned the masters for all of the songs that they had.
Highly valuable master recordings were lost. The recordings that are used to make the mediums of music that we all listen to. The only real important thing is figuring out how we're gonna fix this. Right, guys? Here's the situation that we're working with. A little over 100,000 master recordings were lost, which comes out to around 500,000 songs. Some were incredibly important landmarks of music history, including groundbreaking jazz recordings that were initially recorded at record labels that UMG bought out. I just can't get over why they even needed to put these masters in some gimmicky building for pedestrians to gawk at called the Universal Video Vault. Just preserve them properly, like everyone else, man. This shit isn't some funny attraction. We get that you don't care, but everyone else does. Stop fucking around.
But even if they do, it's like, bro, a fire? Like, when's the last time you heard of a museum fire? That shit does not happen. Like, can they not treat it like an actual museum? I guess they are so cheap they cut corners even at their own museums with all their recordings, videos, and music recordings.
So, how UMG responded. Now, I'm not a PR expert, or a legal expert, or even some business guru guy, so I'm not entirely sure what the perfect response was off the back of this tragedy, but I'm pretty confident that you absolutely should not lie. But UMG, knowing they were completely fucked, did exactly that. And
they lied?
A lot of it too. Articles like this one from 2008 show how UMG executives...
Universal Group, Music Group masters not destroyed. Jeez. Oh my god, they lied.
Literally they just lied. Like right to the public. Seriously? That's what we're going with? Nothing was lost? This isn't them letting the media run with false information. They went out of their way to correct the record.
Loss, thankfully.
But I mean, really, what option did they have? They preserved these masters like shit. Their employees were not properly trained, and they had no excuses. So they don't care about paying artists, and they don't care about the art that their artists make. So do they even do their job? You know, like getting artists' music in front of as many people as possible? No, they don't do that either. Between 2019 and 2022, John Waite, Joe Ely, and rap duo Salt-N-Pepa all stated publicly that they plan to sue UMG for the rights to their masters. Which, depending on how much you already know about the legal side of music, sounds kind of petty on the artist's part. I mean, you signed a contract. Unfortunately, you gotta see it through. But no, as per the US Copyright Act of 1976, any artist can reclaim the copyright to their song after 35 years of someone else owning it. So wait, why do any of them even have to sue at all? It's perfectly legal. Hand them over, Universal. Well, because nothing makes any fucking sense in this industry, UMG's arms are crossed and they're pouting like a little baby. They refuse to give up any of the masters, claiming that they are exempt from following the Copyright Act because, allegedly, the artists never owned any of the copyright to these songs in the first place and were instead, quote, works for hire. And that already makes my blood boil. I mean, seriously, how...
So wait, they made the music, but then you're a contracted employee of the company rather than an actual artist who made the music, who gave it to the company. What the fuck?
Petty and annoying do you have to be? But
so wait, who the fuck is staying signed to Universal if this is the type of shit they're doing now? What the fuck?
Believe it or not, it gets worse. Recently, I made a TikTok expressing my genuine confusion regarding the disappearance of a lot of songs from Spotify. In that video, I did not have an explanation for a few of the artists that I named. But while researching for this video, I got an answer for at least one of those artists. Salt-N-Pepa has had a majority of their music removed from streaming platforms by UMG with almost no further explanation. But the reason they did that was because of the lawsuit that the duo filed. They've decided to make an example out of Salt-N-Pepa. Fine, you don't like how we use your copyright? We won't use it anymore. Now no one can stream your songs. But rest assured, if these two were making as much money for UMG as Taylor Swift was, UMG would have no choice but to grovel at their feet for them to change their mind like they did to Taylor. Please don't take your copyright back even though you're legally allowed to own it. We would lose money. Please, you gotta let us continue to use your music catalog and likeness however we want. They're all about the rules when they're the fastest kid on the playground, but when the faster kid shows up, they call timeout right as they're about to be it. And you may notice that UMG has used something like this tactic before, but on a way larger scale. Oh yeah, that's right. When they took all of their music off of TikTok in February of last year.
I remember that.
This, UMG said the reason they removed it all was because A, TikTok isn't paying artists enough, B, they disagree with TikTok's content moderation practices, and C, they're against the fact that TikTok allows creators to promote AI music on their platform.
Cap. You know what the reason was? Is because they don't have any say and control over who gets big or what gets big. They were running around following TikTok algorithms and who's the TikTok artist that got big. Instead of doing that, they're like, fuck that TikTok, give us control. Just like Spotify.
Response, TikTok flat out said that Universal was letting their greed get in the way of licensing music to creators, demanding way too much money from the platform. So yeah, both sides had some pretty dramatic things to say. But what actually happened and why? First of all, TikTok is not on the hook for paying artists. UMG's statement here is wildly misleading. Yes, in a perfect world, every time an artist's copyrighted material gets used to turn a profit, money goes right into their wallet. But at the end of the day, UMG is the middleman. I mean, look at how badly they didn't want Salt-N-Pepa to own any copyright. TikTok pays the copyright holder, which is, most of the time, UMG. They're the ones not paying artists enough, not TikTok. What they meant to say is that they want TikTok to pay labels more. But to be clear, that is also stupid as hell. TikTok's priority is, and should be, paying their creators. The labels should only get the bare minimum amount of money to keep them satisfied. And second of all this noise UMG made about encouraging audiences to stand up to TikTok's reign over music is bullshit, full stop. To even pretend that there was some moral reason behind them sticking their feet in the mud is disingenuous at best. The reality is that the existing licensing agreement between TikTok and UMG was literally 1 day from expiring, and UMG saw it as the perfect opportunity to negotiate more money from the platform. And you know what? In hindsight, this should have been super obvious. Do you want to know why? Because UMG put their music back on the platform. TikTok never changed their terms of service, yet everything's back to normal. The only logical conclusion here is that UMG didn't get their way and gave up. Probably because they remembered that TikTok is the only thing keeping them in business. Yeah, people have been screaming at these major labels for years now that platforms like TikTok are not worth going after because they provide untold amounts of exposure for artists that can then be converted into more streams and new fans. Superheaven, one of my most listened to bands of this year, I found on TikTok through one singular video. The 20 times I watched that clip, which contained a 30-second snippet of Youngest Daughter, netted Superheaven $0. But I've streamed their stuff like a gazillion times, and I do plan on buying Superheaven merch soon, and buying Ours is Chrome on CD, which we all know benefits them a lot
directly,
more, and their label too. But no, UMG sees someone using their copyrighted material to make literal pennies, and they start blindly flailing their arms around like a toddler getting the iPad taken away. So UMG doesn't care about paying artists, they don't value the art they work with, and they don't even do their fucking job of distributing music. How dumb did these executives have to be to not understand that someone like me using that Aphex Twin song a few minutes ago and this one right now does not hurt anyone's bottom line, but instead actually motivates people to literally comment asking what the song is and where to find it, which helps them. But speaking of creators, we have one last place to go. By far the easiest way to see how and why UMG ruins everything is by looking at how they treat social media. They fucking hate it. They hate it pretty much exclusively for the reasons that we were just talking about, their own outdated ignorance. But when we get down to the details, it becomes easy to see why they act the way they do. The copyright system on YouTube is weird, but it kinda has to be. bear with me here. When DreamWorks made Shrek, they paid Smash Mouth, or more accurately Smash Mouth's label, which is UMG by the way, for using 2 of their songs. They most likely still get paid royalties. It's just how copyright law works. They make a profit off of someone's copyrighted material, so the copyright owner gets a cut. As far as the labels are concerned, YouTube is just a million blockbuster films using their material unlicensed, which makes them all freak out. The very idea of them not collecting money like it's an idle game gives them nightmares. So, the initial years after YouTube's inception consisted of many legal battles with music and film companies. In fact, it got so bad that YouTube was basically forced to implement their Content ID system, which, in theory, is a good system. It's at least a preferable alternative to labels going scorched earth on every YouTube video on the platform, just deleting whichever ones they feel like. With Content ID, if you use a song that is owned by a record label, it will be automatically or manually detected as someone else's copyright, and then depending on what the label wants to do, your video will either be muted, demonetized, blocked in certain countries or all countries, or you'll share revenue with the record label. But it's right about here that most people start yelling at their TV, phone, or monitor, "What about fair use?" And yes, in theory,
but it should just really should just be shared monetization, right? Like, if I'm using like a couple of seconds of a song in the background of a video, like it should just be shared monetization, right? That's the thing that makes sense.
Fair use should have us covered. Fair use is an exception in copyright law that theoretically allows the public to use copyrighted material and even turn a profit while doing so, as long as their use of that material is transformative. If you want to know the legal details of what exactly transformative entails, there are like 30 different lawyers on this platform that can explain it to you a lot better than I can. But the gist of it is this. If a viewer is clicking on your video and a copyrighted song just happens to be there, you're good. But if someone's clicking on your video because you're using a copyrighted song, you're well and truly fucked. However, fair use being a completely subjective thing, YouTube has erred on the side of caution and put all of the power in the hands of the labels. They pretty much get the final say. YouTube's response system, where you can claim fair use, is slow and very often doesn't even work. Theoretically, every time I've ever been copyright claimed by a major label, if I wanted to do something about it in any substantial way, I would have to actually take the label to court and argue fair use. And even though I would have a seriously good case for it, like 99% of the time, I don't. And most people on the platform don't. Frankly, because no one has the time or money to fight that fight. They would inevitably draw the process out, forcing you to pay endless legal fees, hoping you eventually accept a shitty settlement. I say this with so much confidence because it's happened before. In 2007, before Content ID, UMG took down a video uploaded by mother Stephanie Lenz of her baby dancing to the song Let's Go Crazy by Prince. So, in outrage, she gathered up her balls and sued UMG with the help of the Electronic Frontier Foundation. They saw it as an opportunity for a landmark win for the people in this new age of video sharing online. They were really proving a point this time, not willing to back down. But what do you know, UMG managed to stretch that son of a bitch out for 11 years. Just to finally have Stephanie accept a settlement in 2018, the details of which haven't even been revealed to the public. So we just take the beating from UMG every time, because what choice do we have? We all know we're in the right to use their music. In fact, in theory, it helps them, like we just talked about. So we all stubbornly continue to use their music. But it's much more profitable for them to do the wrong thing and take all of our money, even if it's literal pennies, every time. Because once again, no one checks them on it. They can just wield the hammer of justice however they see fit. And it's so frustrating to see because they've gotten so cocky in recent years. The situation that happened between Rick Beato and UMG, I think should have gotten way more media attention. For those of you who missed it, cherished music YouTuber Rick Beato received a lot, and I mean like a shit ton, of copyright strikes from UMG on a lot of his videos. Strikes are a lot different than claims, because after 3 strikes, your channel's fucking deleted. Like, your skull gets crushed, the whole thing, you're done. And before you even have to ask, every time Rick has used copyrighted music on his channel, it is absolutely fair use, with little to no argument otherwise. The most frustrating example he gave was the copyright strike like he received on an interview he did with Adam Duritz, where he just so happened to use the song they were talking about in the clip as background music. Like, are we serious? How could you even begin to make the argument that people are clicking on this YouTube short for the song playing in the background that the artist in question wrote himself? Not only is that insulting to Rick Beato, assuming that his interview skills are worthless and people just want to hear the song, but it's also offensive to the goddamn artist who wrote the song. This should be the one overconfident mistake that the villain makes that gets them caught. Jafar at the end of Aladdin, Gus Fring from Breaking Bad, or Tai Lung from Kung Fu Panda. But life isn't the movies and shit isn't fair. In Rick's response, he very fairly states how he doesn't have the time, money, or motivation to fight a legal battle with UMG, even though he knows he's in the right. And let's be honest, why should he fucking have to? Hopefully, YouTube works their shit out and his channel doesn't get deleted. It sounds like everything's going to be okay for him, which is good, but this situation is still really sad. It's sad that YouTube is basically forced to allow UMG to break the law whenever they want, leaving creators to try and fight back. The only way this ever gets better is if there are substantial changes made to copyright law and fair use parameters. If it wasn't so subjective and outdated, then YouTube would probably feel comfortable switching our positions with the record labels. Assume we're innocent until they can prove otherwise. But this is what they've always done. Someone does something they perceive to be affecting their bottom line, that being to have infinite money, so they way overstep in their response, both ethically and legally, and then hide behind their giant pile of money in the end. A pile that they, by the way, amassed by being near monopoly levels of powerful in the music industry for decades. But there's one last thing I want to do, and that's look towards the future. I mean, realistically, the more that artists start doing things like what Taylor Swift did, the less and less power these record labels will have. Whether they actually fade away or they do what they did at the start of the streaming age and find a way to adapt, only time will tell. But what I can tell you is that AI seems to be of special interest to UMG.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I don't even know, man. Are you surprised to hear that? I'm sure as shit not. Interestingly, UMG was early to criticize AI music. In 2023, they partnered with BandLab to protect artists' rights and guarantee ethical use of AI in music, whatever that means. Also in 2023, UMG partnered with Deezer to make an AI
You know what I think? I think that UMG is like one really big public scandal away from destroying themselves as a company. The music industry is already down low, and UMG's like reputation is pretty low as well, and it's a publicly traded company. If people just stop, like if one big fucking lawsuit comes out that just really just is like shitting on them, bad, bro. It doesn't matter if they drag it out or not. Like people, I think people will just be like boycott them. Let's not listen to anybody who's on that shit. Fuck that.
Parent, artist first streaming platform. Sad thing is, most of you have never heard of it, and probably like 3 of you actually use it. They even went as far as to sue Udio, the AI music creation tool, for unlicensed use of their music to train their AI tool. You know what? It looks like UMG might actually be on the right side of history for once. But in a twist that you probably could have seen coming, they've done a full 180 recently. They finally found a way to monetize AI music, so they're actually really into AI, and they were all along too. In June of 2024, they partnered with SoundLabs.ai, just some other AI music company, to make a shitty AI music plugin. Who cares? And also last year, they handed over their entire music catalog to YouTube, who are looking to make an AI music tool for creators to use. Yay! I can't wait to use it. I bet it's gonna be great. And that's not all. Just last week, as of recording this video, they announced they're partnering with Stability AI to make another artist-first, commercially safe, somehow ethical AI music platform. In the announcement letter for this project, they even proudly state that, quote, UMG has been at the forefront of AI innovation within the music industry, embracing the transformative potential that responsibly trained AI technology has. And lastly, and most shameless of all, in October of this year, UMG has partnered with Udio to make an AI music creation tool.
That's the same company that they fucking sued. They're partnering with them now.
The same company they
sense.
sued last year. I guess Udio actually found a way to convince them that there's money to be made here. So who knows? Maybe all three of them will just fully ditch human artists and commit to the AI thing. Part of me kind of hopes that's what they do, because that would for sure be their demise. If you're still watching, I highly encourage you to check out the Patreon. There should be brand new content as I'm uploading this video already on there. I ranked every Minecraft music disc.
That was a good video, man. That was a good video. I feel like that delved a lot into a lot of this shit that I'm actually really interested in regards to like music labels. It also just gave me more questions. Like, it did sort of answer the question of like, why do people continue to work with them? But I feel like I want to do a deep dive into that a little bit more. Liam Anthony, though, shout out Liam for the video. He actually killed that video, and he does a lot of different music related videos. So I think I'm going to subscribe to him because that video was pretty good. Well researched, very like interesting video. So I fuck with it.